What is going on, New York Giants fans? How you living? Hit Squad back at it with another video, and today we are going to be breaking down the 2022 draft class for the New York Giants. We're going to talk about some of the trade backs that the Giants did. We're going to break down the individual players that we selected, and I'm going to give a grade for Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll as this is their first draft with the New York Giants. So let's break this down. Now, before actually I do that, if you haven't already, I want to encourage you to join the Hit Squad. Join the Hit Squad, hit that subscribe button for me, pick that like button for me, and let us know your thoughts on this video below. Now let's get started. Now, at pick number 5, my favorite pick in this entire draft class, Kayvon Thibodeaux out of Oregon. This is a guy that I was pounding the table that I wanted the Giants to get. I've been saying that this guy is a New York Giant through and through. He is a player that we have not had in New York in such a long time. Now, I will say this much about Kayvon Thibodeaux. This is going to be a guy that comes in and makes your defense and the players in your defense that much better. Kayvon Thibodeaux is going to demand double teams. He brings a toughness and grit that the Giants haven't had in damn near what feels like a decade. Kayvon Thibodeaux is a star. Kayvon Thibodeaux, look, he brings toughness. He brings an edge to him that, in my honest opinion, is only going to make players like Azeez Ojulari, Leonard Williams, and Dexter Lawrence that much better. Now, some people did not like this pick. Some people really questioned his commitment to football. My honest opinion, nonsense. Nothing short of nonsense. Don't see it at all whatsoever. Some people, they try to label these players now that actually care about their brand. And look, let me just say this once, and I'm not going to even mention this throughout the rest of the video. It is 2022. Almost every player in the NFL has a brand of some form, and they work to at least build their brand. Now, with how college football is, these kids are making a lot of money off rip, so absolutely they're going to want to build their brand. Kayvon Thibodeaux, look, it is what it is, but you're getting a hell of a player with Kayvon, and his commitment should not be questioned in any way, shape, or form. Now, I know when you look at Kayvon, there are some things that he has to work on. He could add a move or two to his game, but ultimately, this is a star. This is a star-studded player, and I think that Wink is smiling from ear to ear, knowing that he has himself a bull that he can use in a variety of different ways to get to the QB. Now, pick number 7. Second favorite pick in this entire draft. We got the offensive tackle that I wanted. In my opinion, the best tackle in this draft, Evan Neal out of Alabama. Evan Neal, when he gets his hands on you, man, look out, because it is hard to get around this kid. He is such a big guy. He brings a toughness to this line. Now you have 2 bookend tackles for the next decade or so. Evan Neal is a guy that I want on my offensive line, knowing that I got Micah Parsons twice a year, Chase Young twice a year. You got that beast of a line that Philly has. I mean, when you look at the offensive line right now, how it is, I got to give a lot of credit to Joe Schoen. Joe Schoen came in with the vision. He addressed the offensive line like he said he did, and now we got quality players on this offensive line that we can rely on. Saquon, Daniel Jones, get ready, because this is going to be a very good offensive line when it's all said and done, and I couldn't be more pumped. Evan Neal, this is a quality player. Really couldn't go wrong with this pick, and in my honest opinion, man, I think that this is the person that makes this offensive line better, especially when you have Mark Lewinsky to the next of him. Now, at pick 43, we have wide receiver Wan'DaleRobinson out of Kentucky. This was a player that I didn't understand the uproars from some Giants fans. I understand Nakobe Dean was there. I personally wanted Nakobe Dean. But when you go and look at this film, Wan'DaleRobinson could be the best receiver in this draft. I mean, I know that for some people, they say that that's a hot take. They may say that's a reach. I don't think so whatsoever. This is a dangerous and explosive receiver. He has a lot of fight and toughness in him. People will bring up his height, they'll bring up his weight. But in my honest opinion, the game of football is changing. You want to get the ball to your playmakers in space. I think that when you look at the Bills offense, look at Isaiah McKinney, look at Cole Beasley. Those are shifty, small wide receivers, both at 5'8". And in my honest opinion, I think that he stretches this offense. A lot of people are comparing it to Kadarius Toney because they could do similar things, which is very true. He's a super shifty, quick guy, which is what you want on your offense. And I think that Wan'DaleRobinson is going to be able to, at least in space, knock guys out of their ankles, same as Kadarius Toney does. And I think that his play speed is great as well. Now, Wan'DaleRobinson had 1,300 yards off 104 receptions, 12.8 yards per catch. And in my honest opinion, I think that that's stellar. I mean, he was one of the best receivers in the SEC. Wan'DaleRobinson, I mean, if you're telling me he's going to come in and be our number 3, I mean, I'm not really banking on Sterling Shepard. I'm not banking on Darius Slayton. I mean, you're talking about a quick and very versatile offense, in my opinion. I mean, Wan'DaleRobinson and Kadarius Toney, man, don't even get me started on how powerful this offense it could be. I mean, Wan'DaleRobinson, Kadarius Toney, let me not get ahead of myself. Really like this player. I know some people wanted George Pickens. I mean, I like George Pickens a lot, but I think that this is a guy that really fits Brian Dable and Kafka's scheme. I'm very intrigued to see how they use this kid. Now, pick 67, we got Joshua Ezeudu. Now, excuse me if I pronounced that wrong. He is an offensive guard out of the University of North Carolina. He's 6'4", 308 pounds. I mean, look, he started 7 of his 13 games as a redshirt freshman, 2 at left tackle, 5 at left guard. Now, he did miss the first 2 games in the 2020 season with a lower body injury, but he did still play well enough in his 10 starts. Now, he has 3 at the right tackle position, 7 at the left guard position. And honestly, when you look at him as a player, I think that this could be a guy that could be developmental. And going forward, maybe next year, maybe in his 3rd year, you see yourself having a player that you can build around. But in my honest opinion, this is a nice pick for the future. Now, I'm not going to have him rush out there and, put him in his 1st year. I don't think that will really help him, but I do think in his 2nd year, and again, in his 3rd year, we could see a nice player in this kid. I mean, he has all the tangibles. He has some things that he has to work on as a guard, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. Joshua Ezeudu, really like this pick. I got to give this pick a B in my opinion. Now, pick 81, we selected defensive back Cor'DaleFlott out of LSU. 6'1", he's 175 pounds, so he's definitely smaller in frame, but I think that he's a very good player. Now, he can play inside, he can play outside. He was a 3-year guy at LSU. He played in a really talented backfield and in a good conference. Now, he was a rotational player at LSU, and really he only rose up after 2 starters, one of them being Derek Stingley got injured. But I think that he's a player that brings toughness to your team. I think that Wink Martindale could use him in a variety of different ways. It seems that he's very fond of Wink Martindale's defense because he was quoted as saying, "I'm very comfortable in that scheme." Coming to LSU, that's one of the main things we're known for. And that's one of the things you're going to get when you first commit to come and play defensive back here. I'm very comfortable with man-to-man coverage. And honestly, you really want to hear that because that's what Wink runs. Now, I think that Cordell Scott, again, he does lack the frame size, but I think that there's still talent there. I think that he has to work on his hands a little bit. He had 8 pass breakups in his final 2 seasons, while only grabbing 1 interception in his college career. So, he could work on catching the ball a little bit. I think that Wink could definitely help him in that respect. But I think that you're getting yourself a nice player at a worst case for depth purposes. Now, he did start 10 games at the nickel spot in 2020. He had 43 tackles, 4.5 for loss, 4 pass breakups, then lined up at the quarterback's position and safety during that time. He played fairly solid as well. In the 2021 season, he lined up at corner, nickel, and safety because of injuries in the LSU secondary. And in that time, again, he still played fairly solid. He had 41 tackles, again, 1 interception, 3 pass breakups. You got to remember that this guy was a rotational player. He wasn't really a starter until 2 of the starters got hurt. But when he came into the lineup, he did what he had to do, and he showed flashes. So I think that this could be a player, again, at a worst piece, depth, but he brings some upside, and I think that he's a player that Wink Martindale is going to really like to use. Now, pick 112, we got Daniel Bellinger out of San Diego State. In my honest opinion, one of my favorite picks in this draft. We really needed a tight end, and I think that we got ourselves a nice tight end. Now, he's tall, he's a little lanky, but he runs great routes, and he's a great blocker as well. And in my honest opinion, we have not had that in quite some time. I see Giants fans referring him to Boss from back in the day. I kind of see it. Again, I see it, where he's a good blocker. He's good. He's a good route runner. I think that he brings things to the table that the New York Giants don't have currently on their roster at the tight end position, and that, he's been relatively productive. He was named the team captain. On top of that, he was named to the Mackey Award watch list for the outstanding collegiate tight end for the second straight season. He started and played in 13 of the 14 games for San Diego State with 31 receptions for 357 yards and 2 touchdowns. His longest catch was for 73 yards, which was the ninth longest in the country this year by a tight end. Now, one thing I do like about Daniel Bellinger is that 101 of his 113 receiving yards were after the catch. I think that this could be a guy that maybe, gets used in the same role as Dawson Knox. In my honest opinion, I think that this could be a guy that, he could fight for starting roles. At a worst case, you got your number 2, at least for this year. But again, this is a nice piece. I personally would have liked a Jeremy Rucker or a Jake Ferguson, but Daniel Bellinger, you really can't be upset with this because, again, he has tangibles that you really want in your tight end, especially when you look at his blocking game. So for me, I got to give this a B as well. Now, coming in at pick 114, we have safety Dane Belton out of the University of Iowa. Now, this was a pick that, to me, wasn't a head scratcher, but it definitely made me raise an eyebrow a little bit, considering the fact that he was a high-value mid-round pick when he was selected by the Giants. Now, I think that Dane Belton could come in and be a nice depth piece at the safety position. He led the Hawkeyes with 5 interceptions last year. He played strong safety as well as Iowa's cash hybrid linebacker safety position as well. Again, with his 5 interceptions last year, he had 46 tackles. He was named first team All Big Ten. He's 6 foot, 205 pounds. Now, look, I understand that some people weren't really a fan of this pick, but I actually am leaning towards it. He had 46 tackles, 12 passes defended, 5 interceptions, 3 tackles for loss. You really can't complain because I think that's what you want in your safety. Now, again, at a worst case, this is a depth piece going forward, but I think that this could be a player that fights for starting time with Julian Love. Now, he was named first team All Big Ten in 2021, and on top of that, he was one of only 7 Power 5 players with at least 5 interceptions last year. Now, when you look at him as a player, the closer to the line of scrimmage he is, the more comfortable and impactful he can be. So how will Wake Martindale use him? Will he prefer to use him in the safety position? Would you want to have him down in the box? In my honest opinion, this guy is very versatile. I would really be intrigued to see how Wake Martindale uses him. And again, you really can't be upset with this selection. Now, for me, again, it was an eyebrow raiser, but I'm leaning towards the pick. I really am leaning towards the pick just looking at our safety room. It is lacking depth. And again, this is a guy that you want on your defense because he's going to make your defense that much better. So for me, I'm going to give this pick a B-. Now we got at pick 146, we got linebacker Micah McFadden. This is a sneaky good pick. He's out of Indiana University, 6'2", 232 pounds. He had 77 tackles, 49 solo tackles, 6.5 sacks, 15.5 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, 5 quarterback hurries. This dude was a beast over at Indiana University. He ranked first among linebackers and 5th overall in the Big Ten. This dude was graded as the highest pass rushing linebacker in the Big Ten by Pro Football Focus. Take that what you will, that's still something that you can put your hat on. He recorded at least 1 stop for loss in 14 straight games. This is a nice player. Now, can this be a player that fights for starting time? I don't think so. I think this could be maybe a player going forward that's a nice depth piece. The linebacking room has been lacking depth this season. Really, we can only bank on Tay Crowder and Blake Martinez. I think that this could be a guy that competes with Tay Crowder. And I think that when you look at him as a player, he's willing, he's a very willing player. He plays tight. In my honest opinion, I think that he brings some energy too. You know, he was a 3-year starter. He's very disciplined against the run. I mean, he sees through traffic fairly well. He's an above average burst from his stance. He's flexible. He could play the edge a little bit. I mean, he shows decent bend and burst off of the edge for someone who's a linebacker. Now, I will say his speed is pretty bad. He plays unsure sometimes. He does have short arms. His coverage responsibilities are limited just due to responsibilities in zone. He can't run with running backs. He can't run vertically up the seam. So that's definitely something that you want to look to at least improve in his game. That can be something that is improved, but this is a player that not only is it solid depth, but he could compete for starting time, at least with Tay Crowder. And I think that this is a player that New York Giants fans are going to grow to love. I think that this was a sneaky good pick, and honestly, this might be a diamond in the rough. This really might be a diamond in the rough for the New York Giants when it's all said and done. So I'm going to give this pick a B+. Now at pick 147, we have defensive line DJ Davidson out of Arizona State University. 6'5", 325 pounds. He was fifth on the team with 57 total tackles, one shy of a tie on third on the team. He compiled 137 tackles, 16 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 1 fumble recovery in his career. He was named the Curly Culp Outstanding Defensive Lineman Award. I mean, this is a guy that, again, at a worst case, this is depth piece where right now we do need depth on our defensive line. But he recorded 31 defensive stops on the run this year. So that's really where we lacked at last year. And I think that Giants fans could agree was in the run game, which used to be a strong suit for the New York Giants defense. So again, this is a nice depth piece. I think that this would at least be better than what we saw with David Moa and what we saw last year with the rest of our defensive line in the run game. He's not going to get pushed around like some of the other players that we've seen. I'm not even going to mention names here, but in my honest opinion, DJ Davidson, nice pick, but in my honest opinion, I'm looking at this for depth purposes. Now at pick 173, we got Marcus McKeithen, out of North Carolina. He's 6'7.5", 335 pounds. He started all 13 games on the offensive line. He was an All-ACC honorable mention. He was an ACC Offensive Lineman of the Week. He has some strengths to him, right? I mean, his awareness is above average. I mean, he sells trap blocks. He's fluid getting to and adjusting at the second level. He's a big athlete. He dips his shoulders fairly well and he moves his feet to get outside leverage when needed. He's strong. He has a stronger upper body. When you look at his hands and his feet, I mean, they're coordinated fairly well. When you look at his feet, since we're talking about it, it's coordinated with his flexibility for an offensive tackle. I think that he's a hard worker. I think that there's things that, honestly, when you look at him as a player, I mean, this could be a guy that at a worst case scenario is a depth piece. And I keep saying depth. Why is that? Because the New York Giants lack depth right now. Right now, they did what they can to fill in the depth holes that we had, but we lacked depth on the offensive line. We lacked depth in the secondary. We lacked depth at the defensive line. And that's what Joe Schoen really came in and did, was found depth pieces and players with upside. And that's exactly what Marcus McKenna can do for you. Now, there are things that he needs to work on. He struggles to be consistent with blocking and motion. He flashes the ability to move his man with his hands, but yet he's not consistent in the area. So, there's things that you like about this guy. There's things that you dislike about Marcus McKenna. But again, this is a nice depth piece. You don't think that he's going to come in and be a starter, but I think that he could be a guy that maybe year 3, maybe year 4, you see some spurts with him. But at a worst case, nice depth piece. Now, this is a player, in my honest opinion, that could honestly be one of the better picks that we've had in this draft, and that's linebacker Darian Beavers, pick 182 out of Cincinnati. This dude was a monster. He was a Dick Butkus Award finalist, first team All-AAC selection, who proved to be one of the nation's top linebackers during his senior season. 6'4", 255 pounds. He finished with 102 tackles for 11.5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks, an interception, 2 pass breakups, 2 fumbles recorded, and 2 more recoveries. This dude was all over the place. He was all over the place in a defense that played very well over there in Cincinnati. He played 38 games for the Bearcats, totaling 195 tackles, 20.5 tackles for loss, and 7 sacks. Not bad for a 6th-round selection. Not bad at all. So again, nice depth piece, but this might be a guy, in my honest opinion, that could actually take Tay Crowder's position. I really do think that. I think that he could take Tay Crowder's role if he comes in and produces. Now, Darian Beavers, he's not going to do that day 1, but I can see that happening year 2, absolutely. I think that this guy has upside. I think that Wink Martindale was going to use this guy in a variety of different ways because he could put his hand in the ground. I mean, he's fairly decent in coverage, but at the linebacker position, man, this is what you want at the 6th-round position. So overall, I'm going to give the New York Giants an A for the draft. I think that they attacked positions of need. I think that they found themselves depth where they were lacking depth at, and they found players that not only could be depth pieces but have a strong upside to them, to where some of them may even be fighting for starting time. So I'm very intrigued to see how some of these players pan out for the New York Giants. I'm very happy and very content with how the New York Giants went about this draft. Do you guys disagree with these picks? Do you guys think that, maybe I ranked them too low? Do you think I ranked them too high? Let us know your thoughts below. Again, I'm going to give the New York Giants an A for their draft. Joe Shane, keep up the great work, and let's see how you do on your 2nd draft next year. Again, this is a video by Hit Squad Productions. Let us know your thoughts below, and we'll see you guys in the next video.